Jamie, just in terms of implementation and practical insights, any of the Vault resources or tools that come to mind that can help best assist with this, with the training? So we've obviously got the knowledge for the practice owners on deep and narrow team structure, but anything that you can think of as part of the training process with the team?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things is in a deep and narrow team structure, particularly, with practice firm owners looking to implement it, is the no bypass policy. Because the deep and narrow team structure doesn't really work without the no bypass policy, and we might get Ed to touch on that. But essentially, if you own your own firm, you don't really want to bypass your senior client manager and then at a next or a deeper level working down the team. You don't want your senior client managers to ultimately bypass the senior production manager with the production managers team as well. And then really the third point there, I always like it, I sort of call it the buddy system. So if you have, for example, like a junior accountant or an intermediate accountant who's starting, get them to have a buddy and get them to report to, the senior. So it might be like a senior accountant or a senior bookkeeper. And that really sort of really honors and from a practical point of view, puts in place how a deep and narrow team works. Because what I've seen over the years is like, I've seen a partner, for example, with 30, 40 years experience, and they take on directly the training and taking all the queries of the junior accountant or bookkeeper. So that's just the wrong way to do it. So yeah, you've really got to implement the no bypass policy. We often talk about the no bypass policy in the context of clients, but it does also apply to what we're talking about today, the internal operations of a team as well. So otherwise you get to the point where I showed earlier, where you have all the staff just reporting to the, the manager or the partner, if you like. So but yeah, welcome to discuss the no bypass policy in terms of a deep and narrow team, and Ed might be better than that.
Well, Ed, you might just quickly summarize it for us, because I want to get everyone into some breakout rooms so they can ask some specific questions of the mentor team. So any comments to add to that?
Sure. Often owners say to me, I wish my staff would take more responsibility and take their job seriously and, have more accountability. And it just seems like I'm doing everything. And then when I observe their behavior in how they manage their teams, I observe that they're undermining their people. And I said, well, if you want them to take more responsibility, stop undermining them. And typically the response to me is undermining. I'm not undermining them. They don't know that they're doing it. Now, give you a very quick example. One of he or she, is given some work by the client. He or she goes to the office and goes to, in this situation here, goes to the blue person right down the bottom and says to him or her, the accountant, oh, I've got some BAS what you need to do quickly, and the client wants it done quickly. So effectively, he or she's bypassed the senior manager, bypassed the senior production manager, and gone to their staff and gave them instructions. Now, if you do that, if you keep doing that, then eventually the client manager and the production manager will say, well, you want me to manage these people, but you keep undermining my authority. You keep bypassing me. If you want to manage them, you manage them then. You manage them then, and they'll sit back and wait for you to manage them, and you'll end up having a paid audience around you. And that's not because of the staff having bad staff, it's because of poor management on your side. So often the opposite happens. One of the junior accountants will bypass their senior manager and go to you to ask a question. So effectively, you should say to that staff member, go back to the production manager and the senior client manager to get it answered. If they don't know the answer, then you have a three-way conversation. You have the junior accountant, you have the manager in there and yourself, and you give them the answer, and then you step away from that and let them implement it. Right. So often you should because it's more efficient to have the two of them in the same room, so the left hand knows what the right hand's doing, rather than just explaining it to the junior accountant and the production manager doesn't know what's going on. So that's really, really important. And it's very difficult to do often because of habits. And now let me just quantify that, qualify that. I'm not saying that you can't speak to the team, right? That's not what I'm saying. I often go to the junior accountants and talk to them and say, how's things going? Are there any blockages to production? Because, you know, I'm really focused on productivity and no blockages. And often they might say, oh yeah, I'm having trouble getting this bit of information from the client, or, you know, my computer's not working, or there's some problem. And I go back to the manager and let them know that there's a problem there. But I hand the responsibility of the implementation of the solution back to the team, back to the leaders of the team, so that they're empowered to run the team, rather than, you know, you just constantly interfering and getting in their way. And when we just measure them on the KPIs, you know, the productivity on the timesheets and the Fab 5, and they're the best measurement. And in the meantime, let them get on with the job.
I love that. And Christy said there, I love that. If you're not delegating, you've got a paid audience.
Yes.
We'll put that in our little black book of wise phrases there. Guys, I've really enjoyed that conversation. I think there's been a lot of little takeaways there as well. And as we pointed out in the comments there's some great resources in the Vault on helping you implement this, including no bypass policy Jamie just talked about there, which is step 16.2.